Are you saying that gossip isn't something that women should divulge in at all?
Gossip is the way in which women explore regression, because they require to explore regression, but they don't know how to do it because of how societal structure has positioned them. Those men that are involved in that domestic violence are men that have not explored their regression properly, and therefore start to perceive an opportunity to explore it in the most cowardly way.
Is therapy a friend or foe to the black man?
So,
move like a queen and I like what I see and I wanna get more of that.
I undress and he blows success. Lay down as you decompress. Come mine and forget the stress. Got the 9 to 5 cause he trying to change his life. He can't help it but to show his bad sides.
the fact that no one brings question marks when it comes to what a yellow man does, to echo the great Malcolm X.
And on top of that, China being very generous to loan money as well.
To echo the great Malcolm. No, for real. Like, we don't put question mark on what other communities are doing. And the moment an African man like myself stands and say, yes, Africa does have to focus on itself for a certain period of time, we will now begin to perceive attempted labeling situations to deal with that African man. So I insist when I say that we must function by ourselves, for ourselves.
Okay.
There's no way out of that.
So we're touching on the mentality, the psychological mindset of the black man and the black woman in this time. Does mental health look different in Africa?
Yes, it does. And I want it to be very clear. When I address situations, I am not just talking to my enemy. I'm also talking to my brother and sister.
Okay.
We have to practice accountability. There are some uncomfortable conversations which we've not had about African culture and black culture. Mental health is one of them, amongst many, that must be practiced or must be looked at. When it comes to mental health, it has to be looked at seriously and approached in accordance to the last 1,000 years. For the last 1,000 years, we've been a mess. So with a level of organization, of course, because some of that mess is not just created by us.
Okay.
Obviously, you find a lot of freedom when you take accountability for everything in your life. So it's from that philosophy that I'll say that we must take accountability for everything to do with being African descendants, and we must act accordingly. So we've got to look at what fuels a positive mental health. What are the key components found within a mind which we would deem to be healthy?
Okay.
You know? So what sort of information must one be exposed to? What sort of practice must one be involved in?
So exposure attributes to one's mental health state.
Of course, because if your stomach is the place where the food goes into, through, obviously, you consume food through your mouth.
Yeah.
Your mind is like the stomach and your eyes are the mouth.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the difference is there's an end where the food can come out. Is there an end where the information can come out?
No, it sticks with you.
Ponder on that one.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so exposure to the information you allow yourself, or let's just say you allow your children to take in, your nutrition. I mean, historically, when it comes to agriculture, we are leading, or we were known to lead when it comes to agriculture.
And today?
And still today, because a lot of our, even aunts, uncles, mums, dads have land back home, farmland actively. So when I say, does mental health have a different lens in Africa than it does in England, would you say mental health is managed better in Africa?
I would say that the only way to know is to have had both experiences on the African soil for a long time and on the European soil for a long time. See, the reality is that in Europe, because we're so in proximity with our enemy, one of the huge pandemics that has hit the black community is the pandemic of mimicking the enemy and believing that this is how to live your life. Assimilation, integration, call it whatever you want.
Code switching.
Whatever, right? And the reality is that if you understand colonialism, you understand the science of language, which is something that I've taken from the book of Marcus Garvey, The Message to the People. Okay. And language is a science. It's not just a means of communication. There's ways that you can speak to someone and obtain exactly what you want. There's ways you can shape your speech to obtain a certain result. You can tone down your voice and create a different... Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The way in which you approach language varies in accordance to what it is you're doing. When you start to analyze words, you start to study etymology, where words come from, what language was there prior to English, French, Spanish, and all of that. You understand that colonization literally means the metamorphosis of humans into another type of human. That's actually what it means.
Heavy training.
So I'm going to take a human and make it into something else. Wow. That's the definition. So the moment you understand that to have occurred, if you do not take a mindful approach to detach yourself from the human you have been created to become, you will be that.
It's literally creating another evolution.
That's what you're doing.
That messes up the ecosystem. I mean, depending on what end you are on it.
You with me? Hence today you have brothers and sisters defending ideas of the people that raped their grandparents.
Yeah.
Like,
killed everything.
Do you understand? Like, humans defend that.
Yeah.
Because they have been transformed into something else.
So when we're talking about language and we're talking about delivery, tone, the dynamics between the black man and the black woman, a lot of things that get raised is how the black woman speaks to the black man. And when you hear, oh, she's aggressive, she's not respectful in her speech, where does that idea of how you deliver or how you speak to me come from? Because surely you have to be taught what respect looks like. Surely you have to be taught what tones look like. And it makes me wonder, what state is the black woman in right now mentally? Because statistics show that within England, black women are 29% more likely than their white and Asian counterparts to develop some type of mental disorder, breakdown.
Okay, that's interesting.
As a whole.
Not surprising, but interesting.
But it doesn't surprise you. So when a black woman is coming from a place where she seems to be aggressive often, how does the black man manage that without bringing in the opinions of what respect looks like, which would have been taught to them by their colonizers?
Brilliant question.
Because, sorry, and just to touch, because is that who she is, or is that...
That's who she's transformed to be, to answer it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because that is not the authentic her. Like I said, it's important that we...
Hey, I see you watching, and we got a special guest right here, Man Like Nails.
Let's get it.
Yes, get it. Now, before you do anything, you need to make sure you like, subscribe, drop a comment, and I hope you made yourself a cuppa because we're really getting in with this one. Let's get back to the episode.
That's facts.
So, when we talk about the black man typically describing the black woman as aggressive and the way she talks to him and the tone and the way she addresses him, and we know that black women are 29% more likely to have a mental breakdown in comparison to their Asian or white counterparts. How does the black man manage that without assuming how she should be based on what the colonizers have taught him what a woman should be?
Great question, and really well worded as well.
Thank you.
What I would say is any ideas that describe you as aggressive or wild, often when it comes from the white man or the colonizer, that's an adjective that has been used to describe entities which couldn't be controlled. For instance, we know that in a household, you can have a cat, right? A domesticated cat. But the moment a cat is wild, such as a lion or a leopard, it's because that cat can't be controlled and told what to do and transformed into something else that's useful to the person calling it wild in the first place. That's to touch upon the adjectives that are often placed upon us, right? The aggression which is found within each and every one of us as human beings is something that we all have to actively practice the control of by ourselves, because we all feel this aggression and often it's misunderstood, and the way in which is taught, or the way in which we teach people to handle that aggression often is just reflective of suppression of it. And the reality is suppressing that aggression can only bring it to the surface even more. Hence, it's recommended for men to involve themselves in military-like trainings which will push them to their limits in order for them to explore that aggression in a healthy way.
Okay, so aggression should come out.
Absolutely.
Okay, but controlled.
Because you've got to understand that each of the sensations or feelings which you feel, you have felt for a purpose. It'd be preposterous to insinuate that there is a feeling which you're not supposed to feel. It's preposterous. Now, we understand that feelings are the result of obtained knowledge and past experiences which you've indulged in. And we also understand that we have to navigate with them. Now, if women don't explore that aggression, they often find themselves in a situation where they breathe, sleep, and eat gossip because they explore the aggression upon someone else.
Oh, interesting. So are you saying that gossip isn't something that women should divulge in at all?
Gossip is the way in which women explore aggression because they require to explore aggression. But they don't know how to do it because of how societal structure has positioned them and because of the image placed upon aggression as well. The way today, when you get labeled as aggressive, you automatically are on the back foot and the defensive because supposedly you're a problem to the peaceful structure which is currently occurring. You're the anomaly in the situation, right? Even though, let's even say that that aggression could be the result of injustice which may have occurred on you or around you. The sight of injustice should make you feel like revolt. You should revolt against the perception of something that's not right and unjust.
That's the French in you speaking now.
No,
you know,
well, here's the thing. That is deeper than that. I'd say that's my nature speaking.
Okay.
The idea that my code of conduct is swayed by them is precisely the type of work that we all have to get away from.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're not that.
We're not that.
You're with me?
Yeah.
However, you know, to stick to how we handle that, a woman who doesn't understand that about herself will find herself in a reality where that aggression expresses itself out of her without her control. And she finds herself in the reality where she is controlled by it. Just like when it comes to domestic violence found within households, this is often the case for men as well. Those men that are involved in that domestic violence are men that have not explored their aggression properly and therefore start to perceive an opportunity to explore it in the most cowardly way, because the most cowardly way is the easiest way, right?
Yeah.
So when someone perceives hard work as a bad option, what do? They go to the polar opposite, which is the easiest thing to do. Reason why domestic violence cases have been rising
Yep.
because it's easy to explore aggression in that manner. The hard work would involve you actually looking in the mirror and recognizing that you have the capacity to produce it. Therefore and thereby, you must make it your personal task, just like those monks in the mountains in Asia.
Yeah.
Right? They make it a personal task to master themselves completely.
Yes, in isolation to really meditate.
You with me?
So being based in England,
Mhm.
well, let's just say the UK, we've got our cousins in America across the pond. We've got the continent Africa. When it comes to the hard way,
Mhm.
what rings a bell to me is therapy. Is therapy a friend or foe to the black man?
So, thank you for doing what you're doing right now. These are things that I've wanted to talk about for ages. Now, my perception of therapy personally, I think it's just business. Just
Okay.
like every other area found within capitalism, because I'm someone that practices practical reality. I understand that the moment that you do something for me and I give you money in exchange, that makes it business.
Okay.
That's what it does what it says on the pack.
Yeah.
Now, if all of us got our minds together and started to understand concepts of how to think and how to be, therapists would go out of business. And individuals to do with the mental health realm would also go out of business. So if today I'm in a situation where I feel a great amount of rage and I've got this aggression in me, which I feel should be manifested, in regards to my understanding of the situation that occurs in the waters that separate Africa from Europe, as an African descendant from the middle of the continent, I know that a lot of my brothers and sisters are dying in that water. And I know that the reason why they're dying in that water is because they're attempting to leave Africa in order to get to Europe. Because Africa has become the dystopian reality created by colonialism and neo-colonialism. So am I crazy for feeling aggression?
No. Considering your home has been turned upside down in order for someone else to be on top. And then when you say, hey, you've ruined my home, can I come and move in with you? And you say no.
Right? So in the situation that I'm in right now, do I require therapy for having felt what I felt?
So I'm in two minds. The Westerner in me says, representation is pretty low. Stats say that 1 in 4 therapists are black, and that's just the American stats. Maybe we need more representation. Maybe if therapists look like you, they could understand you and help you more. The other side of me, let's just say more old school, and having been first gen British born, where my parents will say, well, lean onto your family. The elders are there with their wisdom. Should that not be therapy enough?
Interesting. In terms of the elders being there, that is a great take, and they have plenty of wisdom to offer us. But I would hope that we can create a better dynamic between the youngsters and the elders, so that communication can flow in a much better way than it has done over the last 50 to 100 years. Because this is one of the elephant in the rooms and awkward conversations that we must have in regards to African culture. There is a terrible line of communication between youngsters and elders, and it is to be fixed. Now, in regards to therapy, my understanding of it is that it teaches you to manage your emotions better so that you're a better citizen. Now, to be a citizen in a Western world means that you're going to do exactly what you're told and be obedient. That obedience is synonymous of the perpetuation of the exploitation of your soil as an African descendant. So, is it in my interest to go and talk to someone who will turn me into the most obedient version of myself?
I'm guessing no. So that brings me to ask you, what are your thoughts on communism? Because some may come across this and say, oh, he sounds like a communist, or he sounds like someone that wants to revolt a system that he's currently, let's just say Nigel Farage was in the room, he would say, you enjoy the resources of the Western society. What's the problem? What is it that you actually want? Like, what change do you want to see? What will make you feel comfortable in not being a quote-unquote citizen in their image? Because there's nothing wrong with being a citizen, is there? Like, in the grand scheme of things, everyone is a citizen. but there's an image of citizenship that you don't like. So what is it you don't like in British society?
Well, this is what I have to be ultimately clear about my position. I am here for the elevation of the African mind. I'm not here to start to bring forward ideas that are not reflective of that. Everything that I have said and everything that I will say will always contribute to the elevation of the African thinker.
Okay. If
that's something that you identify as, then everything I have to say will be beneficial to you.
Okay.
And the rebellion which I'm talking about,
yes,
is and always has been something that begins in your mind. As I said, before pointing the finger and saying, this person holds me in captivity, do you hold yourself in captivity because of your code of conduct and the thoughts which reoccur in your mind? And ultimately, the path that you're finding yourself on, this is where the work begins. Now, in terms of practical reality, I insist that African countries must be sovereign, and not in the way that it has been promoted to us thus far, because we know that democracy doesn't exist.
Not Commonwealth style.
Right? And we
no.
and we also understand that people are put in place to play a certain role in order to keep the machine going. But Africans must be sovereign of themselves and of their land. Because to find yourself in a reality where someone can come to your country, grab all the resources, and then resell them back to you doesn't make sense. So to answer to the person who would perhaps label me as a communist or all of the other labels that tend to tickle their fancy, I would say that my speech indicates clarity of thought, purposeful action for a tranquil life for African descendants.
A tranquil life. What does that look like for us? Because you're talking about me. I'm an African descendant. So what does a tranquil life look like, or what should it be? Because you're saying right now that we are under a mental warfare.
That's part of my argument. I would agree with that.
And I agree with that. We are under mental warfare. I do believe that we have there's going to be a time, and it's going to be so loud, of an actual reset. There's nothing new under the sun, and everything that's happened in history will come again. And it will come to pass over and over again. It's going to be this cycle that keeps happening. Now, the great Minister Farrakhan said that there will come a point in a time where a man must be accountable for where he is in his life. He can no longer blame his mother and his father.
Absolutely.
So in your opinion, at what point or at what age does a man or woman assume accountability for where they are at this point in their life?
So maturity in humans is distinguished by picking out the individuals who practice as impeccable of a relationship with the truth. That can occur at any age.
Okay.
I have been blessed with the privilege of having a 14-year-old in my studio because he was doing his work experience with me. He's a young brother from Cameroon, which is the country right next to mine. And also the first country to have hosted me in Africa. The first African soil that I've been on was Cameroon. Okay. So when a young brother from Cameroon shouted me, it warmed my heart to be in the situation where I could provide that for a young brother. Because once upon a time, I was that young brother. And he sat down with me and explained to me his worldviews and completely blew me away. Really? At which point I realized that my attempt of playing the big bro, hey, come this way and we can be better men, was completely preposterous to the moment, because I was dealing with an individual who could function from the same lens as me.
He was 14, you said?
He was 14.
Okay.
Hence I'm saying to you, maturity can be found or distinguished in humans by those that practice as impeccable of a relationship with the truth. Just like you can be 47 today and specifically function in accordance to the rules of the Lululand and act in a way that's childlike.
Yeah.
It's a perpetuation of your childlike experience. So whenever a human feels ready to make the step towards practicing the healthiest relationship with the truth is the moment where they should take that leap and actually...
Don't forget to subscribe to Hey Sis UK so you never miss out on an episode.
As much as dynamics play a huge part, we know about America's history. We don't really get to touch on Britain's history a lot. And we know about the crack epidemic, you know, just say no. And a lot of black men had this surge of either going to prison or conveniently becoming drug dealers. And the black man was taken out of the home, which brought the breakdown. Over here, there's a lot of things that we hear the older generation saying where you get to England with the woman you came from Africa with, and she decides to be independent because she's getting benefits. So she now feels like she no longer needs the black man. What is the mental state of black men when they think about their use or their importance in the family dynamic? Do they still feel important right now?
See, Shirazad Ali touched upon this topic brilliantly. She mentioned that the black woman found herself in a situation where the only role model of a woman she had been exposed to when she came into the West, whether that was forcefully or through migration, was the white woman. And because of that, whatever the white woman placed on a pedestal within the world of womanhood kind of became the Bible for women until some started to practice a code of conduct which reflected that they can think for themselves.
Okay.
So prior to you actually doing the work and working out what it is that you like, because you generally like it, you're going to imitate and you're going to mimic what you've been presented with. So you will start to perceive situations from a Eurocentric lens, as opposed to the African lens that you're supposed to be looking at the situation from. Now, everything that you mentioned within your question, we know that is put in place by, not to obviously swerve responsibility, but we know that the system of benefits is put in place by the government. And we know that it's supposed to help single mothers. Now, if you're a woman who has a husband or has a boyfriend or has someone that you have children with, the both of you as adults should be working so that you provide for the children. And you shouldn't be in a situation where you require assistance past your own capacity of provision.
So do you believe that do you believe that benefits given by the state do more harm than good to the dynamics of a household between a man and a woman?
I think that adults should function in a system where they're in charge of the provision. Now, when you're in a system of dependence, because this is what the West is, we are placed in a situation where we have to be dependent on it.
Yeah.
Until you break out of that, you are forever going to be dependent on whatever the rules are. And if that is your reality, then you've got to understand the game that you're in. So what I would say is study in depth what the game you're in entails.
Okay.
And that will enable you to understand whether benefits are good for you or not. I personally think that unless there is structure within your personal life and the life of your partner, you are in for a circus.
Wow. Because when we talk about these things and how it affects relationships and black men's mental health specifically, they talk about the pressures. That's what led to their first mental breakdown, their first anxiety attack, all these things. As a black man, what pressures are you facing right now?
So my perception of problems perhaps is different from a lot of people's.
Because you haven't got the Eurocentric lens.
Let's go. And my relationship with problems is one where I embrace every single problems, and I actually give them the chance to challenge the man that I've become.
It's sorry to cut you off. It's ironic that you say that, because obviously you're relatively young in comparison to my dad, who's in his 60s, and he has the same approach as well. He can't fathom mental health in a sense of, as a man anyway, that's how he speaks, in the sense of, you see a problem, you deal with it. What's the big deal? So to hear you say that, I'm very interested in what you have to say. So please go on.
No, I appreciate that, and big up Pops as well.
Come on, Papa Yezzir.
No, listen, that because this is what I'm saying. The reason why there's a similarity in my thinking and your dad's is because when I think of the masculinity that I've been exposed to as a child, even though I didn't grow up with my father, I grew up with some uncles around. I've always noticed that problems were there to challenge a man. And a man must befriend his pain and his problems in order to start to produce a version of himself which he himself could have never imagined he was able to produce. And it's in the sharpening process of your manhood that you're going to discover so many different things about yourself. When it comes to your capacity of displaying resilience, your capacity of displaying motion, forward motion, and your capacity to embrace life the way it is. Now, I'm not telling you to sit back and say, it is what it is. Far from. I'm telling you to understand situations for what they are and act in accordance to the best version of you. Some people call it the higher self or whatever rocks your boat. But that version of you has the capacity to deal with every single problems that you've been presented with.
So let's fast forward to a buzzword. Sometimes it rattles people, not in the best of ways, and other people, it makes them feel like, yeah, let's double down on it. I say the word masculinity to you. Do we still need to use this term today?
Of course.
What are your views on masculinity? Do you feel like it's something that puts undue pressure on young men, or do you feel like it's something that's a bit archaic? Because people think either way about it.
No, I think the study of language is important. I think there is a difference between a male and a man. I think in order to be a man, you must qualify. In order to be a male, you just need to have come out of your mother. Is this the right way to say it?
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, it's so it's biological.
Biological.
Everyone's male biologically.
Biologically,
yeah.
Right? And obviously have masculine sex.
Yeah.
And to be a man, you must qualify, and it's conditional. Everything is conditional in the life of a man, and you have to understand the assignment. Hence, I say that a military approach to your life is key to a good balance in your mind and in your life, because military comes with discipline, and discipline can only make a man better. I do not know a single man who I label to be a disciplined man whose life isn't together. I've never met one. Have you ever met a man who you can refer to as disciplined, whose life is a mess?
No, I mean, it's counterintuitive, that one.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a word that you mentioned. You said conditional. And a lot of people will be steaming with what I have to say, but do you believe a love for a man is conditional?
Of course.
You say that very quickly and with a lot of surety. Why do you believe that?
Have you ever met a homeless man in the streets of London?
Yes.
What are the thoughts that come to your mind when you perceive that man?
He must have nobody, and what did he do to get to this point?
I agree with you. And I would also say that this is a man who's currently deprived of respect and dignity.
Okay.
And this is a man who is in a situation where he's been left within that, the lack of respect and dignity. And ultimately, if love was unconditional, the people who were in the life of that man, who are the supposed unconditional love givers, would have supplied the love, respect and dignity necessary to get that man back on his feet. Have you ever visited a prison, Yezzi?
No, I've not had the pleasure.
I was speaking to a gentleman who's done 29 years in prison this morning.
Wow.
And I asked him, what is the difference between the old men that are in prison and the young men? He told me that the young men have got a chip on their shoulder and a point to prove. And he told me that the old men just want to do their time and get out so they can spend time with the people they love. And what is even more interesting about the prison conversation is that the men that are in there, if they were to be interviewed, they would tell you that the so-called people who had unconditional love for them have not shown up, simply because when a man is deprived of dignity and respect, he becomes disposable. So I repeat, love is conditional. The reason why even your mother loves you the way she does is because you have demonstrated to her through your actions that you are worthy of that love, as you should.
So what you're saying is that love is conditional for everybody, not just men. Is there anybody that unconditional love is prescribed to?
It's not. Most children that have not been given up on, in terms of, giving them up in the streets, or abandoned by irresponsible parents or irresponsible biological parents, should we say, because parenthood should automatically be synonymous of responsibility.
Yes.
So let's say irresponsible parents that give up on their children place children in a position where they can't be loved unconditionally. But children traditionally are unconditionally loved.
Okay, so that's the one.
And women are also unconditionally loved. Women are humans that can be in situations where, for just the fact that they're here, they can be loved.
Mm.
Now, whether that love conceals further intention, time will tell. But in the present moment, a woman, for just being, can indeed be loved.
Why is that?
Because often, in terms of how we practice interaction with women, they are benefits out of having a woman who's loved in your company. Her presence alone, when she feels loved, or even whether that's you giving her some love that she might not even be returning. If she returns it, brilliant. But even if she doesn't return it in the way that you want it to, you would still benefit out of what's produced on the back of loving her.
Yeah, even if we were to go to the grassroots of it, which is basically like pregnancy alone, the fact that she can bring life, it's a big benefit in a household.
Understand?
The feminine prowess as a whole is a big attribute to the family dynamic. As a caregiver, naturally, it's not something that has to even be trained.
You understand?
I hear it. Are you comfortable with that?
Of course. Reason being, like I said, to be a man, you just have to study the history of humans. We've always had to qualify. There's never been a point where you don't have to qualify.
Yeah. So you're comfortable with your existence as a man, having to continuously qualify. So if we talk about today, do you feel like a lot of the reasons why men are going through mental health issues, whether it be anxiety attacks and being diagnosed as clinically depressed, do you feel it's because they are not at peace with the fact that they will always have to constantly qualify in life?
That's something I'm willing to explore. I would explore that idea.
Okay.
Reason being, the mental space is something that requires work. If you've not developed a great relationship with work, you will perceive it as a chore. and you will never ever get round to actually doing what's required of you for you to feel like you. So I'm willing to explore that idea, that the dissonance creates itself on the back of men not knowing how to conduct themselves in order to qualify.
So, as a final question for you, for a man that has no clue, or should we say a male at this point in time, that has no clue on how to become a man, what advice would you give them? What resources? Where do they go? How do they make a start to becoming a man?
Step number 1 is to actively analyze your thoughts.
Is that with the assistance of a therapist or not?
Without.
Okay.
There's a book called Teach and Thinking, which will enable you to just literally Google that, Teach and Thinking.
Okay.
There's another book called The Power of Concentration by Theron Q. Jumon. Highly recommended. And As Man Thinketh by James Allen. These are all classics within the realm of philosophy. That will enable you to start to pay close attention to your thoughts. And what that does for someone, it enables them to identify what thought does what and where does the thought come from. And by doing that, you can realize what needs to be uprooted out of your mind in order for you to produce better results. Because everything is the result of hypnotic rhythm, in accordance to Napoleon Hill in his study of human behavior when he wrote the book Outwitting the Devil. Everything is hypnotic rhythm. So humans require cycles and habits in order to feel like they are who they are. And I insist on feel like, because it is just an emotion which is keeping you in that cycle. So this is what a young male or young boy has to do. Identify the nature of his thoughts, and then understand that in order for him to comfortably step into the next phase of his life, he will have to take on responsibility and qualify for those responsibilities with a smile on his face, feeling joy and complete in that function, because indeed it is a wonderful way of life. I am thoroughly benefiting from being a man. There's plenty of benefits in that realm once you accept the role and the shoes you have to walk in.
So when you say words like feels like, do you believe that feelings are a choice?
So I believe that imposing your feelings upon other humans is a choice.
So does that come back to the whole misery likes company type of thing? Because if I say I feel sad, I'm in a bad mood, I come into this room and I show you and display.
So automatically what you do, you manipulate me. Because I have two choices now. Either act in accordance to the feeling which you have described, or and act in a way that will reassure you and obviously make you feel something different and make you feel like you have someone. Or disregard the information which you've given to me. In both instances, as someone receiving that, I have to make a choice in accordance to your emotion. That is manipulation. What you must understand is that your feelings are there for you to learn from. They are your greatest teachers. They will outline and demonstrate aspects of yourself that perhaps you wasn't aware of, or perhaps you have been aware of but have attempted to suppress.
Which we shouldn't.
Which you shouldn't.
Okay.
Suppression can only lead you to a bigger explosion later on. That's just basic science.
Hence the mental breakdowns.
Hence the mental breakdowns. Like,
okay.
It's basic science.
Okay.
Now,
so we shouldn't sweep it under the carpet, because
absolutely not.
Our community historically
specializes in sweeping under the carpet.
Historically specializes in sweeping things under the carpet. So we shouldn't just muddle through things. We should men should qualify for it, but men and women should actually manage their emotions as and when they come along. Precisely. Okay.
And men and women should manage their emotions on a day-to-day basis through the world of mindfulness.
Okay.
I'm so surprised that perhaps people think that mindfulness is a big deal. It is not a big deal. It's an analysis of how you think and how you move in accordance to other humans that you're coexisting with.
Yeah.
A basic comprehension that I shall explore freedom to the full extent, but understand that my freedom stops when yours begins. This is not a big deal. I'm not gonna do some things which I know will cross the boundary of your freedom.
Because that could happen.
Because if I don't place freedom on the pedestal that I should, if I don't respect freedom like I should, I could cross your boundary. I could cross your freedom.
So even freedom has its boundaries. In
terms of coexistence,
an
absolutely.
ecosystem, to have an ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Okay, so in order to have that amongst your partner, family, friends, you have to live within your own freedom, but still respect the boundaries of that freedom, not to kind of bleed through to other people's.
That makes perfect sense.
The reason why it was good having you here, Nels, is that you've digested a lot of knowledge. You've read a lot of books. You've displayed that. I hope when you're listening or watching this, you wrote down what he's recommended. But people might not be able to digest the information that you've taken in the way you've taken it in via reading books. So this type of medium is something that they can digest. Maybe the language is a bit more easier for them to understand. The dynamics and the examples are easier for them to comprehend.
Absolutely.
But I really, and I'm sure our listeners really appreciate this conversation.
Big ups.
Do you have any final takeaways?
Yeah, the final takeaway that I would say to summarize is the key to a healthier conversation between the black man and the black woman will happen through the world of mindfulness. And it will happen through an understanding of what each other's nature require. I would urge my sisters to understand that a man specifically requires respect and dignity. These are the two things that will enable the best version of him to be at the meeting every day with a suit on, coffee's already made. You get me? Man's out here ready. Yeah?
Yeah.
And I would urge my brothers to understand that in order for women to function at their best, what they require is love. And you have to understand how to give her love in ways that goes way beyond just the physical realm. There's other ways to show love to someone. You can just be present, right? And you can be a source of calm in order to help her rationalize some of the situations she might be going through. In order to be a man, you have to understand the importance of being solution-based, because this is what manhood is. You supply solutions to the set of problems that are to be encountered or witnessed.
Or presented by the woman.
Or presented, not just by the woman, by everything.
Everything in life, okay.
Right? This is what it is to be a man. Deal with problems and pattern it proper.
So being a leader.
Come on.
Okay.
Pattern it.
Just pattern up.
Pattern it.
Nels, man like Nels, before you go, please, is there anything you're working on, anything coming up that we should keep our eyes peeled for?
So I've had the chance of taking my work further by going back to the motherland over the last 5 years of my life. And I have filmed 4 videos in Central African Republic promoting all types of concept beneficial to us, I believe, in our elevation. So this is what to watch out for. The 4 videos and the tracks that will come out over the course of this year, where I'm singing in Sango, language of my ancestors, making my official debut as a trilingual artist.
Come on.
Yeah, so English pattern, French pattern. Let's go to the motherland.
Next level stuff.
Yeah, me.
Man like Nels, let me tell you something, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure to have an intelligent, elevated brother here to open up our minds to the world of mindfulness. It's definitely something that I personally will be divulging in more. So before you go, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with your friend or even the enemy.
Subscribe. All of that.
All of that.
Let them see it.
Come on. You have been listening or watching another banging episode of Hey Sis. Stay blessed.
Come on.
She move like a queen and I like what I see and I wanna get more of that.
I undress and he blows the cess. Lay down as you decompress. Come mine and forget the stress. Got the 9 to 5 cause he tryna change his life. He can't help it but to show his bad side. So he call me Yezzi when he want that good ride. Follow my stride, you know you want a good time. Pick any card, I know it won't decline. He know how to please me, never tease me. Keep me in Givenchy, laced in Gucci. Quick, take the keys and drive to Chelsea. Eat a scalini, order linguine. He ordered the chateau, we got it to go. Then flew to the chateau, you already know. Friends telling me they see the glow. There's no way they know, well I guess it shows. That's a seed you sowed, oh.
Baby looking too